Bond. I don't know if you'll notice this, but my first videos from a long time ago, I was just much more conservatively, usually in a button-down Oxford dress shirt and stuff like that. And my shirts have slowly gotten more loud. So today I've chosen the virtual background that matches this Hawaiian shirt, which I actually picked up in Hawaii. And I'm just getting older, and I'm just caring less. So I'm just, being more casual and being more me, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to give you great information and great advice. Okay, so in my last video, I had mentioned that I wanted to teach you how to get more out of AI than the regular people are doing. Okay, and regular copywriters are doing. And copywriters will make the mistake, and they think that what they can do is say, hey, give me write me a landing page, and that's going to sell a mastermind in the write it in the voice of Gary Halbert, and it sells for this much, meets 4 times a year, and give it a few instructions like that, and they think they're going to get something great, and they're not. First of all, you can't really successfully teach it to write like Gary Halbert. And yes, I do know that there are people who you can feed a Gary Halbert ads. Okay. You can teach it to write a little bit more like Hunter S. Thompson, and you can teach it to write a little bit more like John Carlton, who have a more definitive writing style. And you can't teach it to write more like Gary Halbert. And the reason for that is most of the time, if you haven't trained it at all, it's going to start looking at what his most prolific work is, which is his newsletters. So it's going to say, dear friend, and it's going to say, might say fungolas instead of money and things like that. And my dad's not doing a lot of selling in those newsletters. But even if you were to feed it its ads, the ads, if, as Kevin and I have broken them down line by line, and they're so radically different from each other. And that's what's, one of the things that made him so talented, is he could sell to people who are unlike him. And when for example, one of the best ads that he did, and you really don't see it until you know the stories behind the scene and why he chose these things, which is why the ad breakdown was so long for that, but why it's also so good. And but he had written in the voice of like 4 different people. He wrote in the voice of the Hollywood celebrity that's endorsing the product. He wrote in the voice of the doctor that invented it, the president of the company, and stuff like that. And it's completely different from writing in the voice of a housewife that's selling a coat of arms thing. And so it's going to be a lot harder to just say, hey, write it like Gary Halbert would, and get some good results. But the main reason you're not going to get anything fantastic about that is because all the other parts and elements that it is relying on are things that are just too commonly put into everybody else's thing. Everybody else's copy. So, when it comes to selling masterminds and, shortening the learning process, and the same points that everybody is making in all of their masterminds, come get connected, learn to be with real players, come to this event and, hobnob with these people and everything. They are all going to sound very, very similar to each other because they're offering a similar benefit. And what they're going to do is AI is going to end up going and scouring those and saying, look, all of them mention this, the networking opportunities. So we're going to throw in networking opportunities that are there. They all are going to mention X, Y, Z, benefits and features and benefits. And so what we're going to do is we're going to what the machine is going to do is it's going to spit out these things, and it's not going to stand out to people who have been interested in masterminds. So when they start shopping around, now it will work. Okay. So if you want to use AI to make your clients happy, especially at the beginning of your career, it's very easy, because what happens at the beginning of your career, your clients don't want you to sound salesy, and it's stupid. As I often say, it's like telling a model not to look too sexy. It's bad for business. You're actually out to make sales, so sound a little salesy. Ask for the sale. But what most business owners and your clients originally are going to want to do is they want you to write something that looks similar to what everybody else is putting out there in their ads, and they're going to say, yeah, this looks a lot like. In fact, when you come up with something radically new, it's going to make them nervous. A client being nervous is a good sign that your ad might actually do really well. Okay. But so what's going to happen though is most of the time they're going to try and talk you out of it, and him and ha and do all that. But when you show up with something that is different, but it sounds just like what all their other people they see in their industry doing that looks professional, they're going to pat you on the back and think you did a great job. And so using AI with the average prompts is going to be do a great job for doing that. But what happens when you actually want to make money? When 5% of the sales is the biggest part of what you get paid, then you're going to use AI as a tool, not as the writer. Okay, so let me explain how you do that and how it's different. Okay, so one, all the power in your marketing comes from research. I hit that button all the time. And then editing is where the professionalism comes in. And so no matter what you get out of AI, you're going to have to edit it. But in the marketing, it's having a good gut and saying, that's something that I didn't think about. It's something's put in a way that I didn't think about doing. And so for example, the way that my dad taught me to think differently was more about living in the real world. And so one of the greatest examples of this, and I love this, I'm very proud of it. My daughter was having a conversation with some other girls at her high school. And the first one said, I want to get a car, but my dad said I can't have one. He doesn't think I'm responsible enough to drive. The second one said, I can have one, but I got to pay for it myself. And my daughter turned around and said, my dad says that he bought me a car. He said, because overdoses and gang violence are not the number one, cause of the deaths of teenagers. It's from, he doesn't want me being driven around by some teenage boy who's showing off in his car. He says that's more dangerous than anything else and my biggest fear. So I'm going to buy you a decent, safe car. And as a result of that, you're not going, but in exchange for that, you're not going to allow any boy to drive you around. And so, that when other fathers hear that, the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, that's actually true. I know more people and teenagers that were lost in car accidents than I do from drug overdoses, or that I do from, gang violence, especially because I grew up in LA and everybody's like worried about gang violence and drug overdoses. Now, drug overdoses have gotten worse with the fentanyl being, laced in stuff. But it's still the number one chance of losing your child as a teenager is going to be in an auto accident. But that's the reality. And so I understand that. Now, how can that be used in marketing? Is, let's suppose that you're having a car, you have a used car dealership and you want to put it out there that, look, the number one way that, you can lose a child is by an irresponsible teenage driver. So you want them driving cars that are safer, not sportier. And, we're going to cut a special deal for that. And, but it's living in the real world. And so because of that, you end up with real world thinking and points that, that you start to think of and ways to think that other people don't think. It's one of the reasons comedians actually make good copywriters. It's because a comedian will turn around and see something at an angle that everybody else didn't think of and go, oh yeah, that is kind of stupid that we do these things this way. And here's a much better way to do that. It's like talking about, gun control. And I once said to a friend of mine, and I'm, I'm very good with firearms. But I said, no, if you really wanted to control it, what you do is make the bullets really expensive, and you start tagging those, watch everybody freak out if you try and do that. So, we can actually track eggs to which chicken it came from, so if sure, buying the firearms easy, but, the bullets are expensive, because to get good shooting, it's going to cost you quite a bit of money. And I'm not getting into a thing. I'm just saying, is a reality that would be something that would make a huge, huge difference if all of a sudden, the bullets that you buy were all very easily traceable to the manufacturer and to who sold them. Okay, but that's not going to happen. So don't worry if you're a Second Amendment person. But anyway, the point that I'm making is marketers live in the real world. They don't live in, but they understand that people have the fantasies of what they do. Okay. And they have the fantasy that, all of a sudden, if they are driving a Ferrari, girls are going to fall off their feet. That is not going to happen. What is going to happen is a lot of people are going to be giving them a lot more attention and assuming that they made good money and that they are successful in life because they're driving an expensive car that most people can't afford. That's the reality. Okay. Now, once you get the research done, though, okay, it's time to write the copy. And this is where AI helps. Now, people think that the AI helps in the research, and it does to a degree. And I'm going to give you an example of that through this and through the copywriting process, and then talk to you a little bit about just a tiny bit about editing. Okay, so what you have to do to get the most out of AI is learn traditional copywriting. Okay, so I'm going to give you a very quick lesson that everybody should know in their first year of learning copy, which is when you're writing bullets, it's about feature and benefit. Okay, and there's lots of ways to enhance these, just like you can enhance headlines with some specificity. So, an example of that is, how I made $96,723 last year sounds a lot more real and believable than how I made high six figures or whatever that is. But I just happen to hate the 6, 7 figures or whatever it is. So, but if you're very specific on those numbers, people are like, okay, well, no, that's a serious number. He didn't just pull that out of thin air. He must, have something that backs that up. And so, you can punch up subject lines like that, and you can also do, or bullets the same way. You can also do bullets that are, and I'm not going to go into as much stuff that I teach when I teach bullets, but you can do blind bullets, like, the secret ingredient in, secret spice in your kitchen that nobody knows will, help eliminate hay fever, stuff like that. And the other thing that they do is say, the old days with magalogs, they'd say on page 97, you're going to be revealing this thing. You can do that with the info products that you create, at minute number 17, at 17 minutes and 30 seconds, I reveal this secret that, can double the power of your headlines. Or I'm going to reveal, I reveal the 6 different ways to punch up the subject line. Anyway, so forgetting all of that, let's start with just basic stuff about bullets, which is their feature and benefit. Okay, so the one I like to use all the time is, just because I'm a watch collector, and I don't collect a whole bunch of fancy, expensive watches. I have 3 watches that are expensive. The rest of them, I like vintage watches and, Citizens Eco Drives. By the way, I think they're, if I could only have, one watch the rest of my life, it would probably be a Citizen Eco Drive, because they're big and they'd require like 0 maintenance. But anyway, so let's suppose one of the features, I'm selling the watches, and one of the features of it is a stainless steel watch. So, or a stainless steel wristband. And so the stainless steel wristband, you ask yourself, what are the benefits of that? And so this is traditional, very basic, information on how to write bullets. So the benefits of that is it doesn't scratch as easily. And, it's also, you can wear it in the shower. It's not going to get wet and ruined, and the glue's not going to get undone like it would with a leather band. And it's going to be harder. So, and it's not going to break as much. So you can do more sports with it, or you can work on cars with it and stuff like that. And so what a good copywriting instructor, mentor, coach, or whatever you want to call it, is going to say, always ask, so what, at the end of each of those benefits, to dimensionalize the benefit. So what's the point of it? It's not going to scratch. Doesn't scratch it easy. So what's the benefit of that? Well, it means you can work on cars without worrying about that. What's the benefit of that? Well, it means that you don't have to take it off. And what's the benefit of not taking it off? Well, you're less likely to forget about it and lose it. Okay. So you see how I'm getting, more and more benefits out of that. And then you ask, what's another benefit of that? And another benefit of that is it looks good longer. And what's the benefit of it looking good longer? Well, it holds its resale value longer. And you can, so what you end up doing, and this is the way that you would use AI, you go to AI and you say, this watch, it's got a sapphire crystal, which basically is the same benefit as stainless steel, but or let's just continue with the stainless steel. You say, what's the benefit of stainless? Give me 10 benefits of the stainless steel bracelet. And it will list the 10 benefits. And sometimes it runs out. And you always say, give me 10 more until it starts repeating itself. And sometimes it'll run out in 3, sometimes it'll run out in 20. It doesn't, I don't know what it is you're putting in there. And then what's going to happen, then what you do is you take each of those benefits and you say, what are the 10 benefits of this benefit? So what's the 10 benefits of it not being harder to scratch? Well, it looks better longer, it holds its resale value and so forth. Then you ask that you take the ones that are your top favorites there and you say, what's the benefit of that? Okay, what's the benefit of it's holding its resale value? Okay, and let's say it's a high-end watch and it's a Rolex, and you say, well, with this particular brand, and it's not being gold, it's stainless steel, it's hardened, it lasts longer, it's going to hold its value longer, and at one point might even be worth more money than you paid for it. The benefit of that is it's like being paid to wear a watch, and that's, by the way, happens to be true. I bought a Submariner for $3,600, which I can sell on eBay for $7,000 now. That's actually a true benefit. And by the way, that's a point, okay, that most people aren't thinking about. So, I mean, that's a story where I can say, I bought this watch for $3,700 and I can now sell it for $7,000, let's say, 5 years later, whatever, do the math and say that's like being paid X amount of dollars a year to wear this Rolex watch. Okay. And people are like, oh, that's fantastic. That's great. And this is an argument I'm going to go make to my wife and my friends who are telling me that, I shouldn't be spending so much money on a watch and my phone tells the time. But anyway, back to the point of the AI. So AI becomes a tool where you say, what's the benefit of this? And then the benefit of that, and then the benefit of that. Now, you as a good copywriter are going to think of things that other people didn't think about. Or maybe the AI doesn't come up with. But I go further in than just the benefit, and the benefit of the benefit, and the benefit of the benefit, and keep asking, so what, to each of these benefits till I come out of it. I'm not going to go into that. That's part of my bullet training. But the point that I'm making is, if you learn that is basically what you're going to be trained as for how to write bullets in 99% of all copywriting courses, right there. Okay, is feature, benefit, so what, so what, so what, so what, so what. Okay, and then use the same techniques you use to punch up headlines. And then now the editing phase is going to be, saying the same things. I'll give you straight up my dad's, main editing things that he taught. This is not the same as if you were to get my editing book off of Amazon. That goes and teaches you high-end, it teaches you, simple tactics, for getting it to be clear and easily readable, but it also has psychological tricks to keep them reading. It also has tricks and how to inject hidden psychology during the editing process, and how to which words and why you're changing certain words and things like that. So this is not the Bonhauber complete editing formula at all. But this is the standard formula you're going to learn from everybody else, because so far, even to date, I'm the first person who's ever done such an extensive process of laying out the formula for editing. Most people tell you, do powers in your research and spend a lot more time editing, but they don't tell you specifically how to do that. And nobody will tell it to you in the detail I have. And if they do, they're actually just repeating my formula. And even I, every once in a while will come up with something a little bit different. Like one of the things that I had learned since I had written the book on editing formulas is, you get this blindness as you read your copy over and over and over again. So this is one of the reasons that we let the copy rest and then come back to it with fresh eyes. But one of the tricks to do that, so that you're not just missing stuff, is to change the font drastically between each of those reads. That's a great tip, by the way. In any case, so The basic editing thing is people are going to tell you write in short sentences, and they take this too far, in my opinion. They say, don't be afraid of a one-word paragraph. That's absolutely fine. And don't be afraid of one-sentence paragraphs. But sometimes to keep them reading, you've got to leave it on a cliffhanger, or you have to leave it in a certain way, and that's going to require you to make two shorter sentences so that you're not just doing one-sentence paragraphs throughout all of the copy. They'll say write it if it was originally the fifth grade language. Now they're trying to lower it to fourth and third, and so they use the Hemingway app before ChatGPT and other AI formulas came out. And the reason, and my father and I both did that, but we just did it naturally. We didn't have Hemingway apps and stuff like that. But later people would put, I remember Scott Haynes, the late great Scott Haynes, put an email that I wrote for him, which did really well to the Gary Halbert letter list, better than my dad's um, than anybody else had done on using that list, and sold his stuff. And he said he put it through Chat GPT, and it got like a 3.5 or fourth grade reading level. And that was just simply because I use words like get instead of obtain. I'm not trying to impress you with my, my prolixity. And so anyway, so you turn it, you say shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, and you can tell AI to do this. Can rewrite this in fourth grade language. Remove all the instances where you've used the word that but don't need to do so. Okay. And then the other thing my dad would teach you to do, which you can't do with ChatGPT, is read your copy aloud, and you'll find the places where it doesn't flow. So it's do a that hunt, read the copy out loud, you write in fourth grade language, shorter paragraphs and shorter sentences. And you can tell ChatGPT to do all of that except for reading the copy out loud to find out where it doesn't flow. And by the way, when you do that, you'll have a tendency to go, well, no, that's correct, and keep going. No, if you stumble for half a second, just stop it, reword it so that it is crystal clear. Okay. People always make that same mistake. But anyway, so when you do that bullet and you're doing the AI, if you follow the natural formula of copywriting, and that is true with the learning how to write headlines, and then using that system and telling AI to follow the steps that you are using in that system. Don't say, just give me 10 headlines. It's not going to do nearly as good as saying, okay, this is the headline writing system. It's, my bullet writing system is, in my opinion, better than other people's bullet writing systems. And there are people who write really great bullets. In fact, I'll say they write better than I do, but I haven't seen them put it down into a formula or to be able to teach it and get students to write bullets as well as they do. Without an incredible amount of practice. In fact, I don't think they come up to the level of who their mentor is. But anyway, the same thing with storytelling, closing arguments, objections, all that. If you learn that from the right copywriting process, you can use AI as a tool for the research. It will not be as good as the research that you do on your own. It won't be as good as getting together with a group of people who are actual customers and hearing them say things that nobody's saying in public, and AI is not picking up off of other people's copy. And so, but it will do a pretty darn good job of that. But then when you make it go through and make all the points, so let's suppose that I'm going through the draft copy that I'm writing, and I've got my headline, and I've got the points that I want to make, and I've got the and I've done, I've used ChatGPT to help me with the bullets, or I've done the research and wrote a lot of the bullets myself and the points and the things that I want to say. The more prompts you tell it to put into the copy, the better the copy is going to come out. And then when you tell it to edit it using that, that basic editing formula, or you start using the advanced formula that's actually in the Halbert Copywriting Method Part 3 book, you're going to end up coming out with a lot better copy than the other copywriters and the people who I am just going to label as AI operators. That's basically, in my opinion, what they are. And you're going to be able to be head and shoulders above them. And because you think differently, AI is just going to be a tool that's going to allow the first draft process to be faster. Okay. And if you're going to do just a, kind of a phone it in type of job, not the $50,000 a job type of time that you'd put into the research. it can be a pretty decent research tool as well. And so these are the two areas where it's really going to help you get a little bit better. And but you're still going to, so it shortens the process, but it doesn't change the process, and it doesn't change, and it can't add the little element, that human element that your gut is going to tell you, this is the story, and this is the angle, or this is the offer that I wanted to make, and why, and these are the points that I want to make. Okay. So that, because you don't see a lot of used car dealerships making the point about buying your, if you got a teenager, you want to put them into a real safe car. And so that's why, we're cutting a deal on all the cars that have a lot of airbags and have the highest safety ratings, for parents who are coming in to buy a used car for their kids, for graduations, or because they got their driving permit, or their driver's license and stuff like that. So if I'm making an offer like that, I'm saying something that ChatGPT is not going to pick up on by other, saying, give me a car ad. By putting in all those points. And I did this one time for my son's Sea Scout organization. They're trying to raise money to rebuild the hull of this 80-year-old World War II crash boat. It's a boat that would drive out, and it was designed to pick up downed pilots. And when I started talking about the boats, I mentioned this, and I mentioned the boat's been in service for the Boy Scouts, and mentioned these are the things that, what the Scouts have been doing, and the benefit of scouting, turning these young men into leadership positions, and who have a lot have gone on to go. It created this beautiful, wonderful story that is just like ready to print for reporters and stuff that they might want to use. And I sent it to a few of the people who were in the ship. That's what they, instead of a troop, they call it a ship. And they're like, man, that is really great and really well written. And it's cleaned up and it's very smooth, but it's all the great points that were made. And those great points were made from a copywriting mind. Okay. And so that's why I'm never going to be afraid of AI beating me, because I'm going to walk into the same room of prospects or potential buyers, and I'm going to come out with different kind of thoughts and a different kind of thought process that makes them open their eyes and say, wow, I didn't think about that. And this is going to be better. So if you want to use AI to kick off your career and start, getting customers and start doing a lot of work and getting your work done faster and stuff like that, is completely plausible. But learn copywriting, learn the process, so that you can start instructing it on the process. Just like, you're going to get better. You're going to get better results by asking AI, give me, here's a feature. Give me the 10 benefits of this feature. Give me another 10 benefits of this feature, until it starts repeating itself. And then take each of those benefits and say, give me 10 reasons this is a good benefit, or give me 10 benefits of this benefit. And you keep going through them until, again, it's being repetitive. And then you edit it down and you chop it down till it's making the very quick, salient point that's actually going to stand out and stick out. And then you're going to end up with a better bullet than if you tell AI, write me these bullets in John Carlton style. Okay. You're going to get better results out of AI from doing that. So I'm not against AI. I think it's a great tool. It's just that it's going to help, what it really is going to help speed up is the first draft process. Because, for the most part, the research, all the best copywriters put in more time and energy in research and put in more time and energy in editing than the mediocre copywriters. Okay. And they also have a willingness to take their first draft, rip it up, throw it away, and go again, which is quite easily enough to do, is to take the exact same points and say, rewrite that. You can get 4 or 5 first drafts, within minutes out of AI that you cannot do personally. So it's a great tool for speeding up the process. But the more you know the actual old school process, the better the results you're going to get. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today. And yes, I think if you want to learn the very best way of knowing old school process and applying it to the modern world and stuff like that, you should join Halbertising. But just go to my site, bonhalbert.com, if you're interested in checking that out. So, you can join for 1 month and see if it's right for you, and see if the videos and the trainings inside there, help make you a better copywriter or not. But I'm going to continue creating videos like this, because they show you how I teach, and they show you what I'm saying, and you would, and so I want people who resonate and say that makes a lot of sense. I like the way you have explained this, and so I want to learn from you, because you will not, there are people who learn from different mentors in different ways. My dad, and I know this is gonna this is a weird tangent to take off. Everybody who came to learn from him, and I never wanted to learn writing copy from him because of what I saw him do to all of his proteges. He would bring them in first day and he'd say, okay, I want you to write this copy for this client. And he'd give them about 10 minutes to sit down and start working. And he'd say, I want you to stop what you're doing and come with me. And then he would take them out on the, take them out for a boat ride, or, more often than not, it was, we're going to this bookstore and then we're going to go take in this movie. We're going to grab some lunch. We're going to come back. And it'd be like the end of the day. And he'd say, don't forget to have that on my desk first thing in the morning. And that person would, wait, you just took all the time, making me do all this stuff. And then he would say, no, you got to still work. And so then my dad would come in, have them sit down as he sat there, and he read every word of what they wrote. And it didn't make a difference how good the copy they wrote was. Not a single time did I not see him just take the copy, crumple it up, say, this is garbage, throw it away, go rewrite it. Now, that was something he learned from, Navy boot camp, that you can always do better, and these people would come off. And I've heard other copywriters who are literally mentors that are literally trying to make their students cry. And I never understood that. I'm like, why aren't you just saying, this is why this portion sucks and this is how to make it better? Go rewrite it, or go do this, or this story has no good impact, or, teaching part of the process. But for some people, they learned better that way. And I'm not going to pretend that that's not true. I live in the real world. In the real world, some people need to be, what they really need to learn is to be able to, say, this didn't work, or this sucks, or they didn't like it, and I need to rewrite this completely. And they need to have that ability, and, to test their metal, their steel, to make sure that they would come back and do that. But some people, they go through that and they're just going to give up, and they're not going to, try and do this anymore. And that's a shame to me. So my point is, you need to find out how the mentors and how the instructors teach, and whether or not you kind of resonate with what they do. And so some people just want to be, told, your stuff is just like dog poop, and I'm not going to, this is unacceptable, go rewrite it. And other people are going to, without telling you what's wrong with it, other people will always tell you and find fault with it. And sometimes they, and by the way, you're going to, everybody's going to find fault with your copy. It's just the way all my years in reading copy, including my father's, there's only one piece of copy I've ever read where I was like, well, I wouldn't change a word of that. That's absolutely fantastic. And that same writer has written other stuff that I'm like, okay, I would change that, or this wasn't, this person wrote that. And, but it's, one out of, I don't know how many hundreds, my dad used to read all of his copy and his newsletters to me before he published it. So to hear that, so you're going to get critiqued. And so if you don't have a mentor that's going to be honest and say, this is why this isn't good, or that, everything looks great because they want to make you happy because you paid them $5,000 or $10,000 to teach them and stuff like that, that's not a good sign. It's also not a good sign if they absolutely don't tell you this portion that you wrote or this thing you did is good. You need them to just be honest. And so, it's one of the reasons that my program is so inexpensive, that you don't have to give up other mentoring programs or group mentoring programs, and you only have to join it for a month and see, if it's not for you, don't stick in it. It's not gonna, it's fine. But it's because I believe that you need to find the person who is the best person for teaching for you. Okay, so I know I've gone along a little long, but hopefully I've given you enough value and something to think about. And so learn the processes of copywriting, and put that formula into AI the way that you were taught to, with the way traditional people are taught to write. Because guess what? That person who's selling you, I've got these 20 prompts and it always spits out something great. they're selling it to 100 other people who've got those same 20 prompts and they're all spitting out something great. You need to find out how to do stuff differently. So again, my bullet process writing process is covers all of that plus stuff that nobody else's covers. So, but you could still use AI to, help make the process of writing the first draft and make some of the research faster. But if you're going to be a top marketer, and you're going to be a top, strategist, and is somebody who comes up with really unique hooks, offers, and solutions, it's not going to come out of AI. AI can't do it because AI is based on what other people have written. Okay, so that's my lesson for today. And as always, good luck.